Well, look who's here. I know it has been a while since I have done one of these shows. This is the Radio Takeover with Dee Rivers. So let me explain what's going on and what's been happening with me. Well, I had to go off line for a little bit because, you know, a lot of stuff's been going on outside of the show, as you know, with the pandemic and everything. So I had to readjust myself and get back on track. So I'm back. So instead of going live like I used to do, I decided that I'm just going to either record the show with the guest or we'll go on live at an unspecified time. So today we're pre-recording this show, but we're going to post it pretty much right after the interview. So I want to introduce you to a friend of mine who I've known for a very long time, and I'm going to bring him on board. His name is Chris Anderson, and you're about to meet him like right about now. This is Chris Anderson. He knows he knows a lot about the other side of the music business, because if you've been watching my shows in the past, I've interviewed a lot of musicians. And I believe this is the first time in a very long time that I've actually interviewed someone who has a lot of very valuable knowledge about the other side of the music business. Chris, thank you so much for taking your time out to grace this show.
Well, you're welcome, Dee. And of course, anything for you. I feel like you're a treasure in this town, and I'm glad to see you right now, even though we haven't been able to see each other in real life recently. But it's nice to see you here now.
It's good to see you too. You know, for those who don't know, we have our little cook-offs back and forth every once in a while. Chris is an excellent cook, chef. I'm just gonna call you a connoisseur, you know, of the art, the culinary arts. You're very, very talented.
That's very gracious. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome. So are you ready to just get right into it?
Sure, let's talk about records.
Yeah, let's talk about records. You know, we all have our history as how we got into music, and I'm pretty sure I've talked about mine on different shows in the past. How in the world did you get into music, of all things in this world? Why music?
Well, I think it really started off in my home growing up. My mom was and is a Beatles and a Stones fan, and along with some other stuff in the house, and kind of our reward for being good kids and helping her when we were kids was we got to pick out a 7-inch record on the way off. We helped her with the shopping or something like that, and it just it just stuck with me to the point where I was that kid that was sleeping with the transistor radio under his pillow really low so he could hear it, but his parents wouldn't know he was awake at 2 a.m. to hear whatever I could find. I was ready to listen to, from about 12 on. Definitely by the time I turned 16 years old in 1977, it was kind of a big year for music. And then it felt like I had my own music. I was no longer listening to the music of my parents. When I heard the Clash and the Buzzcocks and the Sex Pistols and that kind of thing, it just felt like there's no way I could ever leave it. It was just part of me right then. A lot of fun.
I want to back up because I have a habit of doing this. I wanted to say thank you for those kind words. It just kind of kicked in what you said during the introduction, and I really appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you.
Well, I'm glad that you're here. My hometown is your adopted town now. I feel like we're blessed to have you, and I'm glad you're here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. So when did you, because you also play, you're a guitarist, right? So how did you get into that?
I started playing the bass because nobody else had one. And that was and still is my main instrument. I have guitar sitting over here, and I have a collection of them. And, I try to play a couple minutes every day. It doesn't always happen. It's kind of how I ended up in the music business. is because I realized that I was not that guitar hero. So if I wanted to stay in music somehow, I had to figure out how to make it work for me and what am I good at. And I'm fairly good at business.
So when you say a collection, are you able to say how many acoustic?
Whatever? How many acoustic and how many electric?
Yeah,
I think there's 12 total. And some of them I won in sales contests and things like that from working in the music business, and some of them were gifts. And then sometimes one just looks at you and says, "You got to take me home." So you do. And so I have currently 2 acoustics and 2 bass guitars and 8 electric guitars.
Whoa, that's a little bit more than a hobby.
Well, it's I'll be 60 soon, so I had some time to get them all. They didn't all come right away. One of my favorite ones is one that I bought. I think I bought it about 84. I paid $30 for it, and I was just so happy to have it. It was the only guitar I had at the time. Silver tone archtop acoustic, and I still have it. And it's definitely not the fanciest guitar, but it's special to me.
Oh wow. Well, I don't have 8. I have a few, but not quite that many. And it's just hard to, when you're trying to work and, live life, it's hard to get that practice in.
It's very difficult. And now that I'm here at home working, I don't really have an excuse. So, state of California says I have to take a lunch break. So
yes, you do.
Lately, that's been my thing. I've been working on some stuff, and I've been working up on Cripple Creek. Just a fun song to play, and it's a pretty easy song to play. So that works for me too. So the last couple of days, that's been my thing.
Oh, okay. So after, being exposed to music and you now, you have, the actual playing of an instrument under your belt, 16 years old, 1977. So why go into a career of music?
I joined the Navy, and I was on an aircraft carrier, and I was gone for about a little over 4 years. And when I came home, I wanted to take a break from doing the kind of work I did in the Navy, which was crash and rescue, aircraft director, fireman. And I just wanted to take a break from that. And I thought, well, what can I do? So every day I was going to Tower on Watt Avenue anyway. So I asked them, can I have a job? And they said no. But that day, they didn't say no, like, no, we don't want you. They said, we don't have any openings, but I know for a fact that the bookstore 2 doors down has an opening. So kind of a theme with me is find a job, then find a better job. So I went down and I did that application at the bookstore, and I worked at the Tower Books on Watt Avenue for a year before I could get into the music side of it. I just thought, if I'm going to do something until I'm ready to go back to crash and rescue, I'd rather hang out at a record store. Turns out I took that to distribution and to a whole nother ball game that I didn't even know existed really at the time. I was just looking for a job so I could, buy some stuff to cook.
Well, thank you for your service, first off, in the military.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Oh, you're welcome. So, when I did a little bit of research about distribution, and I'm still kind of going, okay, there's missing pieces. I kind of have an understanding of what distribution is, but can you clarify?
Well, it's completely different now than it was then. when I found out that Tower's parent company, MTS Incorporated, had an independent distributor that they owned, was in-house. It was called Trip. When I found out that they were an importer and an exporter, and that they were distributing independent label music, I did everything I could to get over there. I knew nothing about what it was. I just knew I wanted to get there. And for sure, my first job there was literally sweeping the floor. I mean,
Okay.
But like I said, get a job, get a better job.
That's right.
And I learned a lot about it then. And basically, when vinyl was king, and definitely during the CD era, where we were selling them faster than we could make them, signing labels to distribution was a huge business adventure, and it could do a lot of things for you. If you had a good catalog, you could attract bigger acts, and then you place those records in the stores. You can further the careers of everybody, and every once in a while you catch lightning in a bottle, and you can actually produce a gold record or something like that at the independent level. And that was what we tried to do, starting at Trip, when I don't think a lot of us knew what the heck we were doing, but we just kept trying everything we could. And I think the one thing that I really, that is the centerpiece to this entire career in distribution is the people that I worked with. You could tell right away when somebody was just there because they just needed a job. And then there was the record people. And the record people would do anything to get those records on the shelf or in the hands of the customers, to further the music that they loved. And they would champion records for years at a time, you know. Amazing thing.
So are you able to tell some stories during your time with distribution in that tower?
Well, the Tower gig was really quite interesting, and I was there for 10 years. And a lot of people, very famous people, came through because Tower Record was the largest retailer of recorded music in the world at the time. So you'd be really hustling to get something done, and you'd look up and their Lita Ford would be in your office, or we would, part of my job became booking people into what we called the Black Tile Room, and the Black Tile Room was just our lunch room, and we would have musical guests come and play in there for the employees to get them excited about the record. And Alison Krauss came, and she wouldn't get off the bus. She had a bad day. That was okay. We waved at her, Greg Kinn came, and Greg Kinn and I sat in my office drinking Rebel Yell whiskey, and he wouldn't leave. And he was a super nice guy. He had just written a mystery novel, and he wanted to talk about that. He wasn't really that interested in talking about his new record or his previous hit records. He had a radio show going on in San Francisco at the time, and he and I bonded over that. I've done some radio work, and radio has just been a fascination my entire life. So then finally, I had to drag him out of the office, and he went and he played 8 or 10 songs in the lunchroom for the kids in the warehouse and the staff, and they got them excited about the record. And then and our sales staff was there, and tons of interesting stuff. But I'll tell you, the best Black Tile Room performance I ever saw was by this cat named Monty Warden, who from Austin, singer-songwriter, still active today. And he had a band called the Wagoneers, and this was after the Wagoneers, and the Wagoneers were kind of like a country power pop band, for lack of better explanation. And those guys came in there and they ripped that place apart. Better than any, much bigger names, and tons of fun. There's just a ton of stories. That was the Tower era. after 10 years, I left Tower and I went to EMI's independent distribution company. And I was there a long time, longer than I was at Tower. And that was a whole nother level of crazy. But the Tower thing was a great thing. I mean, people in this town, we always had Tower. I mean, that record store on Watt Avenue, I thought all record stores were like that when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. You know, riding my bicycle down there with my allowance money and pop bottle money to buy Tommy James and the Shondell 7 inches and stuff like that. I thought all record stores, that's what they all were, but we were definitely spoiled. And that defined this town in many ways. And has defined my friendships in many ways. I'm still friends with so many people I work there with. The record people, like I said before, you could just tell when someone came in at the job if they were a record person or if they were, they just needed to buy milk and eggs. That's fine too. We need people like that too. But right. The record people are the ones that we're still together to this day, right?
Oh wow! So, can you describe for those who don't remember Tower Records? Of course, I remember it. I remembered being in the mall when I lived back east. And you would see it when you go in, and it would be crowded, all kinds of records, posters, the whole works. So from your perspective, can you explain to someone who is not familiar with Tower Records what's going on?
Yeah, it's just the deepest stacks you've ever seen. And you can even imagine, even if you're looking at a really deep level of inventory in a store, probably multiply that by 8 or 10 or 12. It was a place where there was no such thing as a record that shouldn't be in stock, and where everything was in stock. And it was also a place where you may not exactly get great customer service all the time. You kind of earned it. And it was a place where you could go for, kids went on dates there, and you just go hang out in the pop rock soul, or you go back in the jazz section, or if classical's your bag, that's all there. Everything was there, and everything was in stock. And it was, at one point I had the Tower on Broadway, which was kind of a small store, and they were stocking 5s on all the Brian Eno records. Brian Eno has some great records, and they're important records. But not a lot of people were keeping 5 of each one in stock at all times. And they were turning them. And that's why they turned them, is because you knew you could go there and get deep catalog. And they also, they did a great thing also. They broke out independent hip hop because independent hip hop was a different animal than mainstream hip hop. And we came up with this scheme that let's break it out for the backpacker kids. And we broke it out, and we tripled sales on independent hip hop in that one store at Broadway, and that spread throughout the chain. And that's when I was at EMI, and I was actually getting paid by how many records they sold. So that was a really good thing for Chris. But they were willing to take a chance and do something to help their customers discover music. They're music heads first and foremost, for sure.
Now, I know you mentioned drive, because I see it all the time driving on Broadway, and I have a curiosity about, I see the Tower, the logo, the sign. Was that where the store was located, or?
What you're seeing there is the movie theater. And if you look at the Tower movie theater, and right in front of that is the Tower Cafe. Well, the Tower Cafe was a drugstore, and the drugstore was owned by Russ Solomon's father. Russ Solomon started Tower Records, and he sold his first record. There's a jukebox in the drugstore and a soda fountain like there used to be, and he started selling the used 7-inch records out of the jukebox, and that's how Tower Records was born in this town, right there on the corner of 16th and Broadway. And then the Watt Avenue store was the first big store in this town, that's for sure. San Francisco, it blew up. It was He didn't know what he was doing. They knew they were having fun and working hard. That was the thing about Tower. You could play hard, and it was available to burn it at both ends, but you had to work hard. Yeah, if you wanted to go out and party like a rock star on Thursday night, you had to be at work Friday morning, and you had. I don't care if you were dead or you're missing an arm. You showed up for work. That's the rule number one. And those of us that showed up for work stayed around and did some stuff. But yeah, I don't think I might have called in sick once in 10 years, maybe. And I was a wild man. So.
Wow.
Also, you could work there with hair this long, and that you hadn't combed in 4 days, and it was all about show up and do a good job. It wasn't about anything else. We employed a lot of freaks and a lot of fantastic people. I mean, that maybe they couldn't work anywhere else because they were a little bit out there.
Right.
I got out of the Navy in '85. I don't think I got a haircut until maybe '92 or so. That was just Tower. It was just the culture, man. You could do whatever you want as long as you worked hard.
Speaking of the long hair, I think we met, and I always start my show out with how I met a guest or whatever, which I forgot to do in this case. So going back again, we met through a wonderful guy, if I'm not mistaken, the late Jim. Remember Jim on Facebook? I think that's how we met, because of the music connection and coming back and forth from Sacramento. At the time, I lived in Humboldt County.
I don't think that's accurate.
Did I leave something out?
I met you at Old Ironsides. I was sitting at Old Ironsides having a beer, and you came in and inquired about their karaoke night. And, it was probably 4:30 or so, kind of early in the day. No other customers there. You and I struck up a conversation, and I told you that the karaoke night was good, and it's the only bar in Sacramento that matters. And it really is the centerpiece of local independent music in Sacramento. It's where everybody that does a band in this town either has to play or gets blessed to play. It's the spot, and that's where we met. And then Jim was a mutual friend.
Right.
So when I went to look for you online and say I'm gonna friend that lady, and I saw we have Jim McDowell and we have a mutual friend. So then it became okay. That's okay, because I'm always like, I'm just going to send some random friend request to a lady. We got to have some other kind of connection. Otherwise, that's a little bit creepy, So, but since we had Jim in common, that I was like, okay, we can do that. Yeah.
Oh, now how in the world did I forget the Old Ironside?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's a couple blocks from my house, and during non-COVID times, I am well known there.
It is a cool place to. I think I went back later that evening, if I'm not mistaken, and did karaoke that night.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of karaoke night because it just doesn't really fit my schedule. Let's put it that way. But I should have went to see you. That would have been a nice supportive thing for me to do. But who knows what I was up to?
I forgot all about Old Iron. I could have sworn. Well, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out later.
So it's either the oldest or the second oldest liquor license in Sacramento, depending on who you ask and what day you ask them.
Right.
And if it's the second oldest, it's the second oldest by 12 minutes or something. And it's been the same family for 85 years. It's amazing. Yeah.
85 years.
Yeah, 85 years. And I've seen like tons and tons of great artists have played there. They used to do a lot more touring acts. would come through, and that would give the local bands a chance to play in front of Deke Dickerson or somebody like that. And then they changed their mode to strictly local music, and I think there was a lot of people that were kind of didn't think it was going to work out and weren't that excited about it. I love seeing the locals. I mean, I love, during better times, I see live music twice a week, and if some kids have a band that I've never heard of and they're willing to get up there and strap it on,
right,
I'm willing to come check them out. Thank goodness that they're doing it.
So what about the Torch Club? I thought is the Torch Club not one of the oldest as well?
It's pretty old. It's not nearly as old as Ironsides.
Okay.
And the Torch Club is currently in its either third or fourth location since my mom's been going. It used to be down on like 4th and L Street, down by the old bus station, and then moved up on 16th Street. Then it moved over to by the Memorial Auditorium, and that's a great club. I mean, what a great blues club! What a great room! That's another if you're a blues artist and you're in Sacramento, that's the stage you got to get to.
No doubt.
And it's serious, and I've seen some great acts in there too, and some great local stuff. Stacey Eakes and the Super Freaks, that was a hell of a band, and they were in there. You could go in there and see them for $3. For $6 you get in and a beer.
Yeah.
Loved it.
So EMI,
Caroline Distribution. I left Tower in '95 to take the job at Caroline Distribution, and the job was in Seattle, Washington. And they basically had a problem up there and decided that I was someone that could solve problems and wasn't afraid to work. So off I went. And they did have a problem up there, and it was having to let somebody go and having to basically start that region from scratch. And sometimes you just get lucky too. You get up there and you start working hard, and all of a sudden something starts happening in Seattle in this case. But there was a couple of really small distributors up there that I sold to, and I had some Tower stores and I had some independent record stores, and they were so not used to seeing somebody because the previous rep up there wasn't doing enough work.
Right.
That I was I quickly turned that around, and that cemented my reputation within that distribution company as somebody that will go anywhere and fix a problem. So I stayed there for 2 years, and they sent me to Dallas to fix another problem, a bigger problem.
You know what? You and I have a lot in common with putting out fires at work.
You and I think a lot alike all the time anyway. You've noticed that. So
I've had a lot of jobs that I've had to relocate and solve issues like that. So it's just listening to your story, I'm just kind of going, yep, been there and done that.
I had a 73 GMC pickup, baby blue, and I put in my truck a bed, a couple thousand records, a stereo, a live bird, some rags and a radio, bottle of scotch, and I drove up there. I said, and a computer. I had a laptop. I had the black and white Macintosh laptop that made so much noise, keep you awake at night. But I said, okay, this is what we need to go fix it. I remember when I got there, I set up the bird, So I had company. I made the bed, and I unpacked the records, and I got the bottle of scotch, and I didn't have a glass. I had to go down to the thrift store and buy a glass so I could have a drink out of that scotch bottle. And, and it just, my days were just, how do I get more records in these stores, and how do I build the reputation of this company, and just, work hard. And it worked. It did, definitely. I think they were billing about $16,000 a month, and after the first year, they were doing about $70,000 a month, and then once I broke the $100,000 a month plateau, you started thinking about sending me somewhere else to solve a bigger problem. Then they sent me to Dallas, and Blockbuster was moving their music division from. They had moved to Fort Lauderdale, and they were moving it back to Dallas. And out west here, we didn't really know much about Blockbuster music. We knew about Blockbuster video,
Right.
But there was about 85 Blockbuster music stores throughout the country, just not out west. They didn't come out here and try and compete with Tower Stronghold, and they were a mess. And moved to Dallas. Dallas. Me and Dallas didn't really get along as well as me and Seattle. Seattle was a lot of fun, a little cosmopolitan city, West Coast. I could still come home. And not that I didn't have a good enough time in Dallas, but, after a couple of years, I was ready to come back. That's for sure.
On the road again. So you know a lot about the traveling.
Yeah, anywhere. Like I said, get a job, get a better job, and get up and go to work and work hard. And that's been kind of the story the whole time.
So you worked with one of Soundgarden's. Is that correct? One of their albums?
Oh yeah, definitely. Ultra Mega OK, the SST stuff. During that time at Trip, I was representing SST. It was one of the labels that we did distribution on. We had a really great lineup of kind of who's who of independent music, rock music at the time. Touch and Go, Mortem, and SST, and the list goes on and on.
So, go ahead. Go right ahead. I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead. You ask about Soundgarden, and I'll go off on a tangent.
No, go right ahead, because I'm a huge Soundgarden fan. So go right ahead.
I never really had, that was a pretty a landmark record. As soon as you heard it, you knew that it was something, and it kind of reminded me of the stuff that I was listening to. It really was my first love. As a big, heavy British blues records was my first music love. The Led Zeppelins of the world, Humble Pie, and early Fleetwood Mac stuff, and it goes on. The list goes on and on and on. But it kind of reminded me of that. They had that kind of confidence that a lot of punk bands at the time didn't have that much in their sound. I got the message. I got what they were doing, but they had a musical swagger, even on those early records, that I thought was pretty evident.
Yes, they do. Yes, they did.
So during that time at Tower, I signed a label for distribution called CZ Records. And CZ Records was started by this guy named Daniel House. And Daniel and I became really great friends. And to this day, we remain close. I went and visited him in Joshua Tree last year. But Daniel worked at Sub Pop, and he played in a band called Skin Yard, who also released some records through SST Cruise. And Skin Yard's a really important band in that grunge scene, because they were kind of a cerebral grunge band, if you will. And when I signed CZ for distribution, Daniel became really my my sounding board, my ears and my eyes, and that Seattle scene going on up there. And probably a big reason why I decided I would take that Caroline EMI job up in Seattle, because at least I knew I had a friend.
Right.
And so he was telling me he's friends with Kim and some of the and also he's friends with Chris Cornell, playing shows together and living in the same town together. And he was telling me really great things about them too. And Daniel and I have a bunch of things in common, but I really admire and respect his take on music. So that really pushed me toward those guys as well. And be damned if all of us were right. They had a swagger that you could see, you could see it from Portland. So
it was extremely obvious, when I first heard Soundgarden, I'm going, who is that voice?
Uh-huh.
That voice. And I was hooked.
Yeah, and I mean, his voice is so unique and so powerful and absolutely beautiful, that the supporting cast of characters may not get enough credit, and they can pack a punch.
Oh yes, they can.
Those cats can play. So what a great thing. Yeah.
So with working with EMI and working with Tower Records, I know you've been to, and even before then, I know you've been to a lot of concerts.
Yeah. Sometimes people will mention a band and I will have forgotten that I had seen them. Oh yeah. That's right. Hey, they were good. Yeah. And part of it was part of your job. You had to go, and I was expected to see whoever we had in town, and I was expected to recap the night. And recapping the night was always a lot of fun, depending on how much fun you had the night before, and I was expected to spend some money and make sure that our customers were taken care of at the bar and at the shows. And a lot of it, something that you love to do, and you just grew up just wanting to go see anybody that you could, and then to have to get paid to do it was just, it's still kind of a dream come true. I tell people nowadays, there's still folks around town that try to put me on guest list and ask me to come out, and I'm like, I have had enough for free. I will pay. I will pay, and I will be there, and I show up and I go. But yeah, I saw a lot of people, and saw a lot of cool stuff happen, and a lot of backstage access and that kind of thing.
It's the best part of the job.
We put out a record by this band called Bicycle Thief, Los Angeles band, and kind of a proto-funk rock band, I guess. Kind of a good following, and they're friends with those guys in the Red Hot Chili Peppers, so they brought them on tour, and so I had to go, and it was at that time I had seen the Red Hot Chili Peppers several times, and I liked them as a club band. When they became an arena band, that kind of didn't translate as much for me. But they were playing Arco Arena here in town, and so I had to go. We had two bands on the bill that night. We had Bicycle Thief, and we had Primus, both bands with records on Caroline. So or through distribution anyway. So I went and I saw. I went backstage and said hello to everybody and made sure everything that I had any control over was taken care of, and saw my two bands. And then before the Red Hot Chili Peppers came on, I'm like, my night's done. I don't need to see him again. And it's kind of an early night for me, which is a good thing. You know, I had kids at the time, and so we were leaving. And as we were leaving, up come the sidewalk, the two little 12-year-old kids holding hands and going quick, like they're on their first date or something, and they're going to see the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So they took off our backstage passes and put it right on their little windbreaker or their sweatshirt or whatever it is, and tell them, "Hey, you guys are backstage, go for it." And I have thought about that so many times. I just know that was a special date for those young people. You know, what a great thing, dude. To go. I mean, they must have been fans, and then they got to go backstage. But you know, little things like that is what kind of sticks in your mind about that kind of access.
That sounds like a dream job. I wish I'd had a job like that.
I wish there were still jobs like that. You know, the distribution is just completely gone. I stayed in it 5 years longer than I should have.
Right.
I was just married to that business. It was part of who I was. And I had a really good time, and it really was the job that I was put on earth to do. I look for the bright spots about not doing that job anymore. You know, I look at the memories and I look at my record collection, and I look at that. I listen to what I want to listen to these days. I'm no longer listening to work, which I did for 28 years. I was listening. Well, the last 5 years, those people didn't know anything about music, so I shouldn't say that. Not all of them anyway, but for a huge part of my adult life, I was listening to work. I listened to. I had to listen to so many new releases that, when I stopped having to do that professionally, and I could just get back into my record collection. God, what a great trip that's been.
Speaking of record collection, let me get my glasses on for this, because I've got a lot of questions for you. All righty. You ready?
Oh, sure.
So what's the most embarrassing record in your collection?
I don't have any embarrassing records. I will gladly play you every Mel Torme record, even that John Denver record up there. There's Judy Collins records that I have. I have some of them just because she covers Leonard Cohen songs on some of those records, and that really was the catapult that gave him a career. So they're important, and I may not play them very often, but they're here for a reason, And lately, I've been really into this kind of mid-'60s kind of schmaltzy bossa nova record, and I guess a lot of people would think that they're a little bit embarrassing, but they're here for a reason, and everything gets played. So I don't know. I'll go through these phases. I've always got a project I'm working on. One time for a while there, it was like I'm looking for French pop singers, and people are like, "What? Who are you? Go away. We don't have any of those." And sure enough, I'd find them. Yes, you do. Here's the lady that murdered that skier, and you got 3 of them, and I want them all. I give myself impossible record projects to accomplish, and I'm not embarrassed by any of them. I'm not saying they're all great, but I'm not embarrassed by them.
So how many albums do you think you own, or how much music do you think you own in numbers?
Oh, probably 6,000 LPs, somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 CDs. I don't know. I have no idea on digital files. I digitized a lot of stuff. I don't know. A couple of big external hard drives full of digital files.
Sounds a lot. Yeah. When I used to collect, I got up to about 3,000.
That's that's a good manageable collection. And I was looking at this today because I now have records in a lot of places where records didn't live before. And so I'm thinking, I'm going to get rid of some stuff. I mean, how many Johnny Mathis records do I really need? Because they remind me of my Aunt Betty,
Oh, right.
I think I just need greatest hits and more greatest hits. And I think we can call Johnny good. So that means I can get rid of, 4 Johnny Mathis records. And there's people out here that are, vinyls and kind of hip. And there's people that are getting turntables that don't have any records, and records are expensive. So there's a spot just a few blocks from here where I can drop them off and they can pick them up for free. And that's what I'll do.
Well, the big box stores like Walmart, they're getting into the record collection. They have the latest and the greatest and the hits. And I went up to, it was one that I saw, it was Jimi Hendrix. Are You Experienced?
Mm-hmm.
$22.
Mm-hmm. That's a good deal.
For the album.
That's a good deal. It's worth so much more. You get to keep it for the rest of your life.
That's very true.
So Target just had a sale online, and generally there's 3 record stores within a 12-minute walk of my home, and they all know me, and I'm in there every week, and I buy records every week. But Target had a sale, and it was buy 2 get 1 free. So now you're getting 3 records for $40 or $45 or whatever. So there was some catalog stuff in there that I filled in. And plus being at home, being as safe as I can be.
Right.
When the guy comes and just leaves a couple records on my doorstep, it's just an amazing, joyous thing for me. And I'm not going out. I can't, I'm not really going out. I'm not spending money. I love restaurants. Restaurants right now here in town are not open. I'm just trying to be as safe as possible. And so I'll justify one way or another how to get more records in this house. But yeah, I think it's good. I mean, they're expensive. But remember when CDs were $20 too?
I remember well.
And eventually they came down to 14. But you have it forever. We were just talking about it. When I was in my 40s, I was talking with people, and they want to talk about movies, and everything they'd say, I'd say, no, I didn't see it. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. And I think between the ages of 30 and 50, I was in a movie theater twice. And it's not that I don't like a movie. It's just that I was always going to save that money to buy records. And the record you get forever. Here's the first LP I ever owned. And it's the Rolling Stones, Get Your Yayas Out.
Get your yayas out, yeah.
And here it is. It's the first one I ever owned, and it's still right here. I was playing it when I was waiting to hook up with you tonight. I was like, yeah, we're going to talk about record collections, talk about records. Let me go back to where it started. So you get it forever. So $22 for Jimi Hendrix, what a deal. That's the way I say that.
Well, you just answered my second question, which is what was your first cognitive record purchase?
Tommy James and the Shondells, Crystal Blue Persuasion 7-inch.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you still have it?
No, and I don't collect 7 inches. Actually, I don't consider myself a record collector as much as I consider myself a music consumer. But no, I don't have the 7 inches any longer. And And there's been a couple of times I've been tempted to kind of go back down that road, but you can't entertain to a 7-inch. So,
well, very true.
you can't get anywhere if you're constantly getting up off the couch. Flip it over.
That's true.
It's such an old saying. I can't believe I got a laugh out of that one. I think I've got a laugh out of that one in every decade now since the 70s. So, but back when I first started, collecting records and getting records, any kind of record I get my hands on, it was because I would help my mom shopping. And then it was either Gemco, which is there was a Gemco now where the Target on Broadway is. That used to be a Gemco store.
Oh, okay.
Before that, it was a baseball field. The one that we shopped at was out in the north area. It was either Gemco or JCPenney. And if it was Gemco, that meant all you had to do was go grocery shopping with mom and you could get a record. It was JCPenney, that means you had to sit there while she tried on clothes for hours. You earned those records. And I believe the Tommy James, the Shondell records came from JCPenney.
So which record was the first record which opened your interest for music and made it a lifestyle for you to collect music?
Gosh. I think that I was kind of obsessed. But I was a real radio kid. And I think what really did it for me was finally getting an FM radio. I had an AM radio that used to sit on my nightstand next to my bed. And at nighttime, I would tune in the local pop station, KROY.
Right.
And I would turn it down really low. I would put it underneath my pillow, and I would lay there and I would listen to it all night long. But I had to keep it really low because my parents would be upset with me. But then I got an FM radio, and then all of a sudden, man, KZAP, which is still a great station to this day, if you can find it. But back then, they put on side 2 of whatever and just let it go the whole side, and you heard things that you didn't know exist. And but not just that station was the main one, but there was a really great station called K-pop that was like a soul and funk station in Sacramento, kind of a free-form soul funk station that I had never heard anything like, Parliament Funkadelic before, and that just fascinated me. So I think I was primed, but as soon as I got a little scratch, some money,
right,
I started coveting records, and a lot of people will come into my house sometimes and they'll say, "Oh my God, look at all those records," and then I'll go to friends' house, and members of the same tribe, and I'm like, "Oh, this looks normal." Yep, your entire house is full of records. That looks normal. I like it. Feel at home here. And there's just, I don't know. There's something about a record that you can, it lives forever, and the memories of that record when you got it. And, I mean, I know that my cousin Barbara gave me that copy of Get Your Yayas Out for my 12th birthday. And that's just special to me somehow.
It's an interactive experience is what I like to call it.
I agree.
It is. So, which record would you say is your key album, your cornerstone in your collection?
Humble Pie Performance Rockin' the Fillmore.
Great album.
Yeah. It's a, we being around in the business for a very long time, and you get asked questions over the same question over and over. Who's your favorite singer? What's your favorite? What's the best live record? And for me, I came up with an answer 3 decades ago, and every time I hear that question, I just blurt it out, and it's like, my favorite singer of all time is Al Green. My favorite rock singer is Steve Marriott. My favorite live record is Performance Rock in the Fillmore. So everything in my collection obsession kind of spins off that record. Everything about it hits me in a soulful way somehow.
Right.
And even the punk rock stuff, and it's brash and it's noisy. Well, they were brash and noisy too. And that's the corner. That's the glue that's holding the whole rest of the ship together, I think. I didn't know I was going to say that, really. If you would ask me live, if you would ask me live record, I would have known exactly what the answer is, but I wasn't sure that was going to be my answer for that.
It's a great choice. He was one of a kind. Yeah.
I've been checking out his daughter. Has a music career as well, Molly Marriott. She's interesting. She's in the UK, obviously. Mm-hmm. You can argue that the Beatles' Rubber Soul could be that record as well, because that was a record that was in my house growing up. That I knew that record before I knew who the Beatles were. That was one of my mom's records that I played and played and played. She had some good ones. She had some not so great ones too. We had to put up with a lot of Olivia Newton-John back in the day to get to the Beatles and the Stones, but that's what record collections are.
That's exactly what they are. Do you have any complete discographies?
Sure. Although I don't think Humble Pie for sure.
Right.
Everything. And it's easy to be a completist when you're talking about a band like Free. So for sure there's some in there. I saw this question earlier, and I was thinking about it, and I think that I'm trying to be a completist in a couple of ways currently that are on my record job list that'll never be realized. I'm trying to get a copy of every LP that Ron Carter played bass on. That's never going to happen. There's like 90 records. That guy's played bass on everything. He's great. He's my favorite bassist. So I just, every time I'm like looking at something, I'm like, I don't know. And I'm like, oh, Ron Carter, yeah, I'll take it. And then I'm trying to get a copy of every pre-1972 Dizzy Gillespie record, and Dizzy did a lot of work. The jazz has been a real focus in my collection for the last couple of years, and those are the. I'm trying to be a completist in 2 impossible ways, but that keeps me looking, right? Keeps me digging in crates.
Keep showing your toes.
Yeah, exactly.
So how is your record collection organized?
It's alphabetical by artist, with the exception of film scores and soundtracks are over in a cabinet over there. And the jazz records are all in this bookshelf along this wall that you can't see. Everything else is alpha by artist here. All the refiles are on the floor on the bottom of this shelf is pretty much takes up this wall. And I have a strategy to play them all. So I kind of think that maybe I'm going to break out country, just to give me more room on the rock, pop, soul wall. And my country collection's pretty focused and not giant, probably just 200 records or something.
Right.
So I might break country out. That might be a COVID project.
There you go.
Got to do something. Keep me busy. So what I do is I start at A, and I play every 28th record, and I work my way all the way through the collection. When I get to the end of Pop Rock Soul, I go over to film scores and soundtracks, and then I move over to the jazz collection. And then there's another another shelf over here, which is kind of stuff that I'm like not sure I'm going to keep. I'm on the fence about.
Right.
And then when I get back to the top, I just keep going every 28th record. And then, of course, at any given time, you can play whatever you want to hear. You don't have to stay in rotation. You can play whatever you want. But by playing every 28th record, I think probably it's a 5-year project, but I will have touched every record in the collection at that time. And that's how I find out if it still belongs here or not. And that's how I find out, that's how I don't forget about stuff. I didn't know I had an Elvis record because I never thought I needed an Elvis record.
Right.
And then the other day, a live Elvis record got played because that's where I was on. It was the 28th record for that day. And sometimes I play the 28th record 6-7 times in a day, sometimes once. Sometimes I skip a day and I just play what I want to hear, or whatever's new. Right now, there's quite a bit of filing that needs to be done. So, but that's my strategy to touch everything. 28 because there's 28 days in the shortest month, and there's this great musician, record collector, interesting cat named Owen Merricks, and he's in Oakland, and he's got a couple of rooms full of records and really eclectic taste. And I have both of his records in here somewhere too. He does really great, like outside stuff. He just put out a blues record last year that's just mind blowing. It's amazing. But I asked him, "Hey, how do you get through all those records?" And so he gave me his strategy, and it was every 28 records. And he has a lot more rules than I do. I simplified it because I got to keep it simple, otherwise I'll forget something. But it works.
When I collected albums, I used to collect them I would have them listed by record label.
Wow, that's tough. That's tough. If you saw a record store set up like that, you'd leave. But that's amazing because I bet you your label knowledge is great. Oh yeah, that's on Atco. That was
Yes.
Atco 1969. Yeah, they put that out right after the Jeff Beck Truth record or whatever. That's amazing. Oh, that's crazy.
Yep. My uncle used to collect his albums that way. He would file them by record label. He said that way people wouldn't walk out the door with, because I lived in a large family. So they wouldn't walk away. They'd have to dig a little bit before they knew, because they didn't know the record label. They just knew the artist.
Wow, that's really that. Man, that's a fate. That's a real talent to be able to find what you're looking for. Then that means you have to remember the labels and imprints of other labels. Yeah.
Yes.
I probably just hang around Verve all the time. I'm in the V's, Uncle.
And so Motown, of course, which at that particular time, my mother's collection, my uncle filed her record albums for her. So I knew where all the Motown stuff went straight to it, because I just knew everybody who was on the Motown label, the Soul label, Tamla. So that's how I learned,
What's your take on Motel versus Atlantic Soul? So
different level.
Northern Soul, Southern Soul, right?
Yeah.
That Atlantic label always intrigues me. There's some such great stuff in there. But when you think of soul music, I mean, the first label that comes to mind is Motown. I would think.
For me, it would be the Stax.
There we go.
Yeah. And I guess that's because I used to live in the South. So, the Otis Reddings and the Mabel Johns and Rufus and Carla Thomas. And that was that gritty, just get your teeth into it kind of, soul music.
So Rufus and Carla Thomas are such great songwriters. I feel like that they never got enough run for their songwriting abilities. I feel.
No, they didn't. They did not.
I lived in Memphis for a little while, right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, short time. I was there in 81, and it's the first time I lived anywhere where it snowed, and I didn't know it did that in Tennessee. I don't know. It snows a lot. I was a kid. Yeah. Yeah. There's some great stuff. Really great stuff. I mean,
all that Muscle Shoals. Al Green. Is recorded it in that era with Willie Mitchell. Just on the High label. See.
And so the High label was another great thing too, because there was a time, getting back to distribution for just a second, that a lot of that Atlantic Soul and a lot of that High label stuff was not issued on CD yet, and in the United States, but it was reissued in Japan, and I bought pallets of it and brought it into this country, and we were selling it as fast as we could get it. The CD craze was just happening, and it was easier to sell Al Green records than it was to tie your shoes. That was a great lick. We got, by the time they caught up to us and gave us a cease and desist, we were not doing anything illegal. It was not available in the country on that format. So,
right.
But the lawyer's going to send you a cease and desist. By the time they did that, we had sold, 10 pallets worth of that stuff, and then it came out. Mm-hmm. And when it came out in this country, then it was good. We stopped selling it. We did that same thing with Metallica too.
Oh.
Looking for a seam. Imports at that time, there was a cachet about them. This is the import version. It has an extra song or something like that.
Yeah, I remember those days. It used to be a bit of a hassle to get imports through, and to buy them, had to order them literally from overseas. I remember that all too well.
Yeah, I was bringing in pallets and pallets and pallets of stuff into West Sacramento, and then from the West Sacramento, it was going all around the country to all those tower stores and some other stores that were customers as well. But just little old West Sacramento. A bunch of people who didn't know what they were doing. We're figuring it out a little bit at a time. Every once in a while, we'd figure out something good, and then we'd do that.
Wow.
Memories.
Uh-oh. I jumped out of, we went all over the place. I'm sorry about that. I didn't start reminiscing.
That's me. I'll spin a yarn.
So which audio format is your preferred format?
It's vinyl. Yeah. It's vinyl, and it's as much nostalgic as anything. And, especially once I stopped working in the business and I went into a different business, I got to start living with my record collection again. I got to start building my record collection again. Mm-hmm. And when I'm at home, I listen to vinyl exclusively, except for when I'm in the shower. Then I'm streaming. I have a streaming service. When I'm in the car, I listen to Spotify. I have a subscription. But when I'm at home, I'm playing vinyl records. A lot more time spent in the record collection than on the television or streaming, for sure. I haven't broken out the cassettes lately in a couple of years, but you never know. That could happen sometime soon. I have a turntable in my office too, and people come by and they think it's a a novelty or something, you know. But on Fridays when we do go to the office, I take a couple records with me, and in the afternoon I play a couple records in the office. Set you up for the weekend.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Is there a record that reminds you of a certain period of your life that you'd like to discuss?
I think every record does that to some extent. There's some of them that are just, I can remember exactly where I was the first time I heard the Police, for instance. I remember the first time I heard Led Zeppelin. I remember the first time I heard the Sex Pistols. Definitely remember the first time I heard the Clash. And sometimes they remind you of people. Mostly those records remind you of some really good times, but occasionally there's oh God, yeah, but I don't think there's anybody at all that's interested in music that puts any kind of time or effort into it, that those aren't the memories of their lives on those pieces of plastic there. So definitely, you say, is there no, there's not there's all.
All.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Gosh, it's just every record is a memory. Some of them, old girlfriends, best friends that I, running mates, that kind of stuff. A lot of it has to tied with music business. Of course, a lot of these records I had some kind of hand in working on, and they're extremely special to me. We did a couple of really great things at Caroline EMI, and one of them for sure was the Chemical Brothers, because that's a record that, to my knowledge, basically nobody in this country knew anything about them when we started working that first record. And there's a gold record hanging on the wall in the other room from the Chemical Brothers, and we really did that from nothing, and that's just an amazing thing. So it's only a matter of time before they start playing that stuff in the grocery store, and that's going to remind me of that. I remember going out in Seattle with this record that I probably had 40 accounts at the time in Seattle, and there was one guy that knew who they were, and he's the guy that was always listening to something I hadn't even heard of yet, and it went from one guy in Seattle to pretty much everybody in the world at this point. Pretty cool stuff.
I know for myself, there are certain albums that definitely bring back a lot of childhood memories. Sly and the Family Stones. There's a ride going on. Just that his whole discography just triggers. I remember playing in the backyard and my uncle and my mom just, cooking out or whatever they're doing. Those albums bring back a lot of good, fond memories.
There's a great family friend of ours who is here in town, and it used to be the public relations and promotion director for the Sacramento Bee. But before he did that, he did a stint as Sly's road manager, and so his name is Butch Cox, and I love Butch. So I was just playing a Sly record the other day, and I just remember I used to love to hear Butch tell the stories, and Butch is the cat, like he's a friend of my parents, but he was the hippest cat I knew for a while there. And then, and I think a lot of what I ended up doing in the record business was because of him. He had a pretty good run there himself, and in show business, as he called it, and then running public relations and promotions for then a large newspaper in the capital of California. So he showed me that a lot could be done if you're willing to work on it. So I loved every time I hear Sly. That's exactly who I think of, and it's immediate, And even when he used to wear those little tiny red sunglasses and stuff, and he was just literally the hippest cat that I had ever met in my life at that point. And we had dinner together last year, and we try to get together once a year still. And God, yeah. See, you bring up an artist, and there's going to be a memory attached to it. A good one too, almost always.
Every time. Are there artists or a single band or what have you, or that you kind of look at them and just kind of go, nah, overrated?
Well, yeah. Some stuff you just don't get, and you're not supposed to get, and it can be pretty general. I don't like Dixieland jazz for some reason. It doesn't move me, and I've tried because I love Dave Van Ronk, who's a great acoustic blues player and a folk artist, but he also loves Dixieland jazz. And when I read his biography, I said, okay, well, what am I missing? If Dave Van Ronk loves this stuff and played in this, whether it's called the Red Onion Jazz Band or something, is what his band was called. If he loves it, he plays it, then what am I missing? Let me get back into it. No, it doesn't work. And we touched on it a little earlier as well. I just don't get the Red Hot Chili Peppers when they became a huge success.
Right.
And that could very well be a character flaw on my part. But, as a club act, I thought they were really great. That they don't really do anything for me. There's none of their records here. There's a lot of others as well, and some artists that I worked with that I just didn't get, but that's okay. That's why there's all these people. Everyone's got to have something. And sometimes I'll call my brother up, and I'll be playing. Last time it was a Peter Wolf solo record, and I thought to myself, I'm the only person on the face of the earth playing this record right now. And probably not, but it feels like it sometimes. And if I can feel like that, then, there's tons of stuff that other people are interested in that I'm not, because positively there's a lot of people that are not interested in those records, and I think they're great. So, yeah, sure. But all records are good to somebody.
Yes, they are.
And, just to respect the talent it takes to get there. Very few people get there without paying their dues, and to have a level of talent and professionalism to get there is great. Their music may not be my cup of tea, maybe my bag, but if you lose the ability to appreciate the work, then you're on a downward slide, as far as I'm concerned. Heck, there's tons of bands that I love that nobody cares about. So, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you one band that I've tried and I can't get into them, and I believe they're from the Bay Area, if I'm not mistaken. Quicksilver Messenger Service.
Yeah. Even the stuff with Janice, it doesn't get you?
A little.
Well, some of those records are, I think you kind of had to be there in the time, because I have probably 3 or 4 those records on the shelf behind me. Also Jefferson Airplane records. I like that After Bathing at Baxter's record. I think it's a real weird outside psychedelic kind of masterpiece thing. But I can get it why people maybe not. Quicksilver could be a tough sell. And some of those records are just like, why? But I think if we were hanging out in 1967 around Haight-Ashbury, we might be singing a different tune, because then it would trigger a memory for us. And they just don't trigger any memories for me, other than the fact I found this in a dollar bin and I bought it, and it gets played every 28th record. It's time will come. Yeah, I got it. But some of the guitar work's really good. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Remember,
So, which album do you care not to ever hear again, ever?
Well, as far as singles go, I don't ever need to hear Freebird again. That's for damn sure. I mean, there's just, gosh, I'm open to whatever you're going to play, but there's certain things that I don't. I don't need to hear anything. I don't need to hear anything that Ted Nugent did after the Amboy Dukes. I don't. It doesn't really get it for me. And I think that's just a personal thing, because I probably saw him 6 times or something, and when Pat Thrall was the singer in the band, I thought they were a powerhouse. And when I was 15 or 14, I was amazed by it. But it's just, the Amboy Duke stuff, I'll listen to that. That's, I think some of this is record snob stuff too. Like, we talk about Bob Seger all the time, and I don't ever have to play some of these records. I don't ever have to play the Eagles Hotel California again in my life. I've heard it enough. It's not necessary, and you can say that about a lot of records. And I think that's a huge disservice of today's FM rock radio, is that, Humble Pie had more than one song. Led Zeppelin had more than 4 songs. Pink Floyd has more than 4 songs in their catalog. I mean, stop it. And I think that, we don't need to hear Freebird. I mean, what do they play? They play like 4 songs, 5 songs of all that catalog. Okay, well, you can play Freebird once, but then you have to play 6 Deep Allman Brothers tracks in the next 24 hours. Make a rule, make it work. So I think mostly of what I don't want to hear ever again is stuff that's just been beat into my head,
I'd agree with that. I agree with that 100%. I don't want to hear Freebird ever again myself.
Oh gosh, that's just so. Well, and unfortunately, Stairway to Heaven's right there with it, and I love Led Zeppelin. I really tend to gravitate to the first record's my favorite record. I like the bluesy stuff. 3, 2's okay. 3's, I like that because it's completely different. 4's great. But I tend to really gravitate toward their bluesy stuffs. But I don't need to hear Stairway to Heaven again either. It's not nearly as cringeworthy as Freebird, but it's getting there,
3, I can do without hearing 3 for a few years.
I think that one comes up, so it doesn't come up very often for me. Mostly because maybe the rotation thing on how I'm playing these records.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just want to hear Zeppelin, and to me, it's almost always I go for the first record, because I think that every track on the first record is absolutely perfect. It's great. And and I love that, late 60s to the very early 70s British blues. I love that stuff. That long-haired English guys playing electric guitars and selling us back our own product of the American blues records, and I think they did a great job on that. And several of them did it really well. And that's really a wheelhouse for me. That's kind of so excited, as a kid to hear Jeff Beck Truth, for instance. It's just like just life-changing in a good way.
Are there some bands or artists that you've had the opportunity to see live but did not, and you regret it today?
Well, it comes to mind, and strictly because I was having a conversation recently, and I never saw the Jam, and I saw a lot of those bands of that era, and a lot of them multiple times, but I never saw the Jam, and I don't know, for whatever reason, I was playing around with on YouTube, and I'm looking for stuff to play in the background to bounce to the TV and let it play while I'm working. And I just got into a jam, down a rabbit hole with the Jam. And then it started me thinking that I had never seen them. And then I started having a conversation with a friend and we talked about it. So, yeah, and I probably had more than at least two, maybe three opportunities. And for whatever reason, I didn't go. I don't know. A lot of times, in those years I was working in distribution, going to shows as part of my job, and if I had a night off, I needed it. Could have been something like that, or I could have had another commitment. Maybe we had a band in town or close enough that I had to go. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen those guys for sure, especially when they were, young and wild. Yeah, I would have loved to see them.
Well, for me, it was Prince, the last show. He did the Man and the Piano. I missed that one and I blew it off.
I never saw Prince either. My mom did. But I never really had the opportunity. I mean, I guess if I was really motivated, I could have, spent $300 on a ticket and drove to Oakland. Other people did, but I never did. No.
I saw him twice. I saw him during the 1999 tour and Sign of the Times.
Cool.
Excellent.
So which is your favorite Prince record, do you think? I'll ask the questions. You get interviewed.
All right, that'll work. Favorite Prince controversy.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a really good one. Yeah.
And he was bad Prince back then, before he got saved.
Yeah. My favorite is Dirty Mind.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
And that's the record that turned me on to him in the first place. And you're just like, who the heck is this? Yeah. In fact, 3 family members saw him, and they talk about it like it was like the most amazing experience ever. And well, now I got 2. I went with the Jam. This is where my head's at. Some band that probably came to town and played a theater that held 500, and then Prince, bam, Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Prince.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. It's amazing. I saw a photograph of him walking down the street in New York City, kind of just the other day. I saw it, and it was a candid photograph, and eyes ahead, intense New York City walk. It's a still photograph, but you could just see the strut. It was just an amazing photograph. And I'm like, I can't believe I had never seen this before. What a presence, period. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do you put on a certain kind of music to get you in a mood? Or do you put on music according to the mood that you're in?
I kind of, the last couple of years, it's been a real focus on jazz records. So when I finish work for the day, I like to put on a jazz record, and most of the time I'll make an adult beverage, and I just kind of decompress. And I've been doing this other thing daily. It's an exercise in deep listening, and that's when I turn off everything else in the house, and I find a record, and I lay on the floor, and I just concentrate on the sound of that record. I don't know if deep listening is the right way to describe it, but that's what I call it. And that listening experience will transform your day in a hurry, and it'll put you places, and you'll hear things that you just don't hear when you're listening casually. So when I'm ready to relax, I'm looking for a record to deep listen. So I find myself taking notes when I'm playing stuff casually. Something will catch my ear, and I'll take a note. Oh, that record, that's going to be on the list for deep listening or something like that. Yeah, there's definitely morning records. I usually don't get too hard in the morning. I like to kind of ease in. If I'm if I have a Leo Kottke record sitting around that I picked up that needs to get played, that might be a really great one to start the day. Any kind of Spanish guitar records. And then I'll move into some of this schmaltzy bossa nova stuff that I really have a fascination with these days for whatever reason. And then, after that, I'm back into what's the next 28th record, and sometimes when I get to that record, that'll remind me of something else. Then I'll go down a rabbit hole with, whoever that band might be. What was it the other day? Something reminded me of this band Sweetwater, which from Oregon, and they're kind of hippies. They're kind of fans of the Grateful Dead would probably like them, but they're serious musicians. I think they were standouts in their high school jazz bands or something. And something reminded me of that record, so I pulled it out. So that's how it works. I like to ease in the morning, and then just see where the day takes me. And then definitely when I sign off from work or when I get home, I'm really kind of looking for that first jazz record, and then whatever comes up in the deep listening queue, whatever I've got a note on or something I thought of. And then, after that first adult beverage, who knows where we're going now, Power pop has been like a huge thing lately too. I go out and like I said, there's 3 record stores within 15 minutes of here. They all know me, and I think they like to see me coming because they know I'll spend money on them. So lately I've been like, if I see a record I don't know anything about and it looks like it could be power pop, I buy it.
Power pop.
Yeah.
So your musical taste is pretty much just all over the place.
I hope so. I think getting yourself well rounded there is an education that's worthwhile, for sure.
Oh, yeah. I agree 175% on that. Is there a recognized album, a masterpiece, who doesn't impress you? You just don't get the genius of?
It's really hard for me to admire somebody's life work and then say that I just don't really get it. And I'm hesitant to say it because it's a disservice to the hard work and the obvious. But I don't get Bruce Springsteen that much.
Oh, that's something else that you and I have in common. I
just don't. I don't get it. And I was in a used shop and there was like a 20-track CD of greatest hits. And I'm like, you know what? I'm getting this. I'm sticking it in the deck in my car and I'm leaving it in there till I get it because I'm missing something. So, after a few days of listening to it, I could sing along with all the songs, but it still didn't move me in some way. And that's okay. But, I hesitate to even say anything like that because obviously the man's worked hard and he's incredibly talented. And then I read an interview with him very early on, and I think this is the cornerstone of why I just don't get it. Is he said, "Yeah, everybody could write these soulful songs, but I always had in my back pocket that I could just burn on the guitar. I could strap on that Fender and just burn the house down." And I thought, gosh, I never really thought of you in that way, but cool. And people love him, and that's good. I'm glad they love him. I told my kids when they were growing up, I don't care if you read comic books, just read something. I don't care if you listen to I got Mel Torme records here, and I love them. So who am I to say?
Oh, yeah.
I don't care what you listen to as long as you're involved. So, but yeah, that's an acknowledged master and a national treasure that Chris just doesn't get.
Speaking of Mel Torme, I used to collect. I was a big Frank Sinatra fan in that genre. Dean Martin and Frank and the Rat Pack and all. It's just something about that music that just puts you in that,
It's got some swank.
That's a swing, yeah.
I think that's a little bit of why I'm so interested in all that. I was going to pull out one of those bossa nova records I've been listening to. I think that kind of reminds me of that kind of sophistication, men that wore hats, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Not that bossa nova reminds me of that, but it kind of reminds me of, a swanky cocktail party kind of vibe, which I think is cool. That artist Shag made a pretty good lick depicting in his drawings that kind of ultra lounge cocktail culture, and that all just fits right in there. Yeah, I get it. And for me, I always, I've said, I think I brought up Mel Torme 3 or 4 times today because, who the heck collects Mel Torme records at this point in their life? But I don't know. There's something about it that clicks, and it reminds me of that time as well. So right now we're talking about Mel Torme, and I'm thinking about Ellen Foley because Mel Torme was on that show as a guest, Night Court, which she played the lawyer. And not only did she do solo records of her own, but she's that voice all over that classic Meatloaf record that Todd Rundgren produced. So this is how that would work. I would think of Mel Torme. The next thing I'd be pulling out those Foley records, and then that would make me think of that Meatloaf record. But instead of going to play that, then I would go down a Todd Rundgren rabbit hole, and then it's that's just how a day goes with these records. or maybe I don't. I that's just that I don't know. But Bruce Springsteen. Anyway, go off and on and on and on. So like there really is no in my world. There's really is none of these records are off base. Judy Collins records and these. Oh, I had this fascination with kind of truck driver country records, and I've got a section of those, and some of it's just Americana schmaltz or whatever. But I don't know. I find something beautiful in all of them, and I hope other people find their thing too, and listen to it. It never dies.
So what is your typical music for Sunday morning, or is there a certain genre you go for when you're playing music?
Yeah. There's one particular record that's here, and it's a record for Spanish guitar and trumpet. Just those two instruments, no vocal, no percussion. And it's a great Sunday morning record. Something like that. It's one of those records it's not a jazz record. It's not a classical record. It's not a classic, easy listening record. It kind of defies a category. And the kind of thing that, an A&R guy would sign back in 1958, and they would press it and they would put it out. I don't think anyone's willing to take chances with records like that in this day, but something like that. I love the trumpet, and that's kind of a real nice way to start the Sunday morning, Sunday mornings are not that they're not that calm for me, because I like to do my vegetable shopping at the farmer's market down the street, and you got to get down there, so you got to get up and hustle a little bit. But when I come back from the market, that's when I'll hit a record like that, or that Dave Van Ronk record, Sunday Street. That for me, that's a great record to start today. That'll set a tone. What was it the other day? I played some like Jackie Gleason record that I thought was going to be a comedy record, and it was not. It was like a big band thing. I got a really cool Sunday morning record, Dick Van Dyke record. I think it's called Songs I Love to Sing. And, the arrangements and the orchestration on it are just spot on, and he's a good singer too. So just stuff like that, usually something a little bit off kilter, but if it's going to be challenging, it's probably going to be in the arrangement, challenging listening wise.
Jackie Gleason.
Yeah. We did a label at Caroline called Scamp, and there's this great, amazing kook of a guy named Ashley, who was in charge of the label. Mm-hmm. And it was all about,
it's time for bed.
Oh, sorry. That was Alexa.
You're on a timer. I know you.
Now so time is usually defined as a cardinal number.
Sorry about that. Excuse me.
The adjective 2 is usually defined as
Alexa, hush, stop. Sorry.
That's all good. So there's this great kook of a guy who was in charge of that label, and it was reissuing a bunch of space age cocktail music, Esquivel and Martin Denny, and there was a couple of Jackie Gleason tracks mixed in that mix somehow that I remember. So when I saw the record that obviously nobody loved and nobody was going to pick up, I was like, okay, I'll take you home. And it came up, I don't know, I say just the other day, but it's, in the 28 rotation, it came up. It could have been 4 months ago or something. So just the other day.
You know what? Doggone it, Alexa. Now she's on again. Hush. Shh. Volume down. See, this is what happens when you get all these gadgets.
This is a pretty gadget-free environment over here.
Is it?
Yes.
I have all kinds of gadgets in here.
What's the one gadget that you think is the most important gadget you have?
Oh, all of them. I would say all, but if I had to choose, it would be the dot, the Echo Dot that I have.
More so than your iPhone or anything like that?
I forgot. Oh, see, I'm a gadget person. So that's so difficult. That's difficult.
Yeah, it's very hard. I don't have many. I got the iPhone, and I have a Bluetooth speaker.
Okay.
Boy, everything's pretty analog around here. I mean, I have a computer because I have to work. I mean, how could you work without it? But...
Well, it's good since we're just casually talking here. So, I have to have my gadgets because I work because of what I do. I deal with a lot of people in Silicon Valley sometimes. So these folks in Silicon Valley turn me on to this and they turn me on to that. I get placed in focus groups sometimes and I get all these different, and I end up owning them. And they become a part of my life. So if I want to play a game of Family Feud or whatever, I just holler at old thing over there and she'll we'll play a game of Family Feud or Price is Right or whatever. And it's just, it's the thing, especially in these times, keeps my mind sharp and focused and occupied and all that good stuff. So I apologize for her just interrupting our interview here. Let me turn her down before because I know she's going to come on again in about 30 minutes. So let me turn her down so it won't be any more. I know, these interviews are so unpredictable. I swear they are. Okay, she's going to, if she says anything, you won't hear it. There. I'm back.
Excellent.
So, we get back to these questions.
Sure.
So, which record did you buy last?
Oh. Let's see. The James Hunter 6, Whatever It Takes.
Oh.
This label is just an amazing label. Daptone, most people know Sharon Jones, rightfully so. And I was lucky enough to do distribution on this label for a good 10 years. And I was just, shopping online, and I'm like, there's a new James Hunter 6. And it's a great record. I really enjoy it. It's a very stripped down soul record. And that's the last record I bought. But I think I also bought another record at the same time that hasn't shown up yet, and that's one of the Sharon's records that was missing in my collection. I just think that those records are amazing. The entire label's amazing. They were great people to work with. They're extremely creative people to work with, and they consistently just make records that sound good. So I think I spent a couple hours this past week just sifting through their catalog, trying to fill in some holes, buying myself Christmas presents.
Oh, yeah. I tend to do that on with Amazon Music.
Mm-hmm. Is that who you use for a subscription?
Amazon. I have for the car, Sirius XM, YouTube Premium, and that's enough.
It's a lot.
That's a lot. Yes.
You can find a lot there.
So, which album are you aiming to own next?
There's a band that I just discovered. I was late to this band called All Them Witches, and they're from I think they're from Nashville. Yeah. And I just bought their latest record, and it came about a week ago. And I'm going to go back and systematically buy the whole catalog. And there's a couple of really great live shows that are an hour long on YouTube. That's what's on my radar right now. But I'm going to be in record stores this week, probably tomorrow. I usually go at lunchtime and hit one of the three in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And I'm always looking for something I haven't seen before. So, that's what's on my radar, but you never know what I'm going to come home with, I mean, I have certain places and stores I always look,
right.
But Jazz G, I'm always looking for Dizzy Gillespie records. Don't ask me why. I think that there is no bop scene without Diz laying that foundation, and I just love trumpets. So I wouldn't be surprised if I find some Dizzy Gillespie records this week. But as far as what's on my list to buy, All Them Witches for sure.
They are really good. I've been watching a few of their shows online, and it's really good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I had to. There's one particular show in France. It's about an hour and a half long, and I had to turn it off because I wasn't going to get any work done. I was so into it, so I just paused it and went back to work. And then at 4:01, let's go. Let's watch the rest of it.
So with all these albums and digital work and such, do you actually pay attention to what music magazines are talking about? I'm just going to get comfortable here, so you just have to excuse me.
Please do. No, not really. I troll for articles all the time, and I probably read on average 8 to 12 articles a day, but not necessarily in music. I'm looking for something that interests me, and lately that's been a lot of political stuff, a lot of pop culture stuff.
Right.
I've been looking at different places. I mean, I was going to say recently, but before COVID, I was getting on a plane, and there was a Vogue magazine with Billie Eilish on the cover. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I want to know about her. number one, she's got a crazy look, and I know she's very popular. And one of the things that really irks me is when I hear people say, "Well, kids this day, their music's not as good as our music." Well, that's what your parents said about your music too. So I don't buy into that game at all, and I think it's derogatory to even go there. But so I bought Vogue magazine, and I was on an airplane. And I'm over there reading Vogue magazine to learn about Billie Eilish. So I'll go anywhere media-wise. Mostly I read online these days, of course, but I'm just trolling them all. The old standbys of yesteryear, Rolling Stone magazine, for instance, I don't get a lot of music run out of them these days, possibly because I'm not looking as hard, but there's just, I can learn a lot by reading people's blogs. I'm just looking everywhere. No, I don't currently get a physical magazine delivered, which is kind of an odd thing. And I want to get the New Yorker delivered. I think that's a fantastic thing to sit down and analog read every month, and I think you'll be better informed for it. But how do you even get a magazine subscription these days? I guess you go buy it online, right? Go to Amazon and buy it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have the Kindle reader, so I'll lots of times put a magazine on that. If there's a good story, there's something that piques my interest. Lots of times it's British magazines. They seem to have more music journalism that I'm interested in these days.
So there's no more questions. I went through all my questions. This is now open season. I hope you didn't think that this was a formal interview, because it's really not. It's as informal as informal can get. So
like you said, a couple of friends sitting around talking about stuff, and that's the reason I did it. Like I said at the beginning of this thing, that I'm glad you're here in my hometown, and it's now your town as well, and I'm glad you're here, and the place is better for it, and we're happy that you are here. And why not sit around and talk about records and music and life with a friend is a great thing.
It is a great thing. When I first moved here, I was kind of going, because I lived up in Humboldt County before I moved here. And I'm going, I'm used to living in city life, because Augusta was my home before I moved to Georgia. And then I lived in Atlanta for a time before I moved here. And so I came here because of a job. But and over the years, I'm like, okay, I'm starting to I really like Sacramento a lot. And so now it's gotten to a point where I want to stay. I want to stay here in Sacramento. So we'll see what the future holds with that. It looks positive, but, I don't want to jinx it. So
there's something about this place. I couldn't wait to leave when I was a young man. Just having San Francisco right down the road, and being able to go see bands like Black Flag and X, and X came here as well, and so did Black Flag. But a lot of bands would come to San Francisco, and I just had to get out of Sacramento. I had to get someplace where there was more going on, and I went around the world basically, and then I couldn't wait to get back. I couldn't wait to leave, and then I couldn't wait to get back. And once I came back, this really is home to me. So it's a lot here. There's a lot of great people here, and there's a lot of. It's an amazingly diverse city, which I think is important. And I like the urban feel of the city center, where we both live. So
Mm-hmm.
And I like how easy it is to get around. You know, my job is 10 blocks from my home. You know, and there's lots of weeks where I never drive the car, and I just like that. It's enough of a city that there's something going on, but it still feels genteel. You know, it still feels like hometown. So.
It does. You know, I was in a conversation with one of my coworkers last week, and I said, "Well, I'm going home," because I'll usually say Sacramento home. I'll say Georgia, but I actually said just home. And I'm like, okay, I do live here, don't I? This is actually my home. Sacramento is actually home for me. It's not a place that I'm just because I'm used to just passing through so much, but I think it doesn't feel like I'm passing through anymore.
We got you.
So, are there any questions you want to ask me? I've had you on the chopping block.
I got something for you, and this is an important question. Is who do you think I should be listening to that I may not be listening to? Who's on your radar that I need to? And I loved your take on rock bands, and I always paid attention. I'm always paying attention to when you're talking rock music. So who should I be looking at now? Even if they're an old band that I might have missed.
Ooh.
I thought you were going to say Bruce Springsteen and laugh at
me. No, I wouldn't do that to you. No.
I feel bad saying that about Bruce, you know.
You know, I feel the same way, and apparently, you know, he has a strong fan base. But it's something about his sound that just doesn't move me at all. Well, exception of one song. It's Tunnel of Love. That one I do like. But the rest of the early stuff, it just doesn't do it for me at all. That's okay. He's still a millionaire, so you know, it's what it is, you know. As far as rockers, let's see. I would say, are you a Pink Floyd fan?
Sure, absolutely.
I would say, see if you could decipher the Syd Barrett years.
Oh yeah, definitely. I have them here, for sure. Are you familiar with the band Air?
I've heard the name before.
Yeah, check that out. Put Pink Floyd in the back of your head and listen to Air, and there's some similarities there that maybe not everybody finds right away, but yeah, those Syd Barrett years. There was kind of I don't know, after high school kind of badge of honor to be into that psychedelic folk music of early Pink Floyd, and it can be challenging for sure. But I haven't pulled that stuff out in a long time. It's here. I definitely have it here.
I have to get back
Harvest, to right?
What's that?
The record label's Harvest for those records, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So Harvest is another one of those labels. Like if I see something and I don't know what it is, but it's on Harvest, I'll buy it. Some labels just get a pass like that, you know. Harvest is one of them. And I bought one recently, and it turned out to be kind of an odd Southern rock record from England. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. I've only played it the one time so far. What's the name of the band? I can't even remember right now. It's right over there. What about?
Go ahead.
Who have you been diving into their catalog? recently?
To be honest, I've been all over the place. I would say recent, Tommy Bolin.
Oh man, Teaser. Yeah, that's a great record.
Private Eyes.
Yeah. So he doesn't get enough run.
No,
Not at all.
no. And that's really a shame. And he did a stint with the James Gang, and he was with Deep Purple, and
Yeah.
it's really a shame. And he was so young, but so talented, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? Today I listened to Jodeci because I posted on my page, you know, they have an anniversary album today.
The people with their backwards clothes.
Yes. Diary of a Madman is that.
Oh yeah. Okay, that is the record too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was a huge Jodeci fan back in the 90s. I've seen them at least 5 or 6 times live. And
you got to miss live music because you're like me. You're out every week seeing somebody. You know?
I do. I miss it a lot. So I was going to see this year Pearl Jam's Gigaton tour. And also Earth, Wind and Fire and Santana.
Wow.
I was going to see David Lee Roth even though some friends tried to talk me out of going, but I still wanted to go because of who it is, you know. I don't care what he sounds like today. He's just a character no matter what you do. So in Vegas is where I was going to see him.
Oh, that's the spot for him too, right?
He
had a residency there for months and a year or something, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think Alice in Chains was getting ready to tour. Was going to see them, and I've got some friends in the Bay Area that I try to see on the regular. The Butlers, they're based out of San Francisco. Very talented guys. I see them all the time. Try to see them more than what as much as I can. So yeah, being on this quarantine thing just really sucks, you know, as far as live music is concerned.
It's really hard. And you know, I'm trying to stay positive about it. I don't want to be that person, but it's getting very difficult. You know, who's playing at the Sophia? Nobody. And I don't know if you've been to that venue yet, but it's a great intimate room. And Soft Machine played there last year, and they hadn't been on the West Coast of America for 50 years. To tell you the truth, I didn't know what to expect. And they were wonderful oddballs. And I just knew that I was never going to have a chance to see them in my lifetime. And I was thinking, wonder why I never saw them. Well, the last time that they were in this country, I was 8 years old. I'm on the West Coast of the United States. I was 8 years old. That's why I didn't see them. I wasn't into outside avant-garde jazz rock at 8 years old. So I missed them that time. But I got to see them this time. And there's just all this great stuff that happens and these great rooms. And we had so much momentum going down here in the city center. I don't know. I'm trying not to be that guy that feels negative about it. Just going to do the best I can every day. But it's getting harder. I do.
Well, you know, you're surrounded by some good music right now. You know, it's got to help a little bit, you know, keep the spirits up. I know for me, you know, when I start thinking about going out and doing live music and I get that feeling, you know, I just crank up some Black Sabbath or whatever, you know, just to get my mind off it. And I put the headphones on, you know, to kind of just help out. We'll be back there soon. We'll be back there, you know.
Yes, let's do that. So we have been going for 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I think it's time for me to tell you good night.
Well, good. I have enjoyed it.
Alexa wants you to go to bed 10 minutes ago anyway.
Well, I've got a little bit of orange juice left. I'm going to toast this to a very good interview. I thank you so much, Chris, for doing this.
Dee, thank you for inviting me. I had a wonderful time, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon, and we'll do another cook-off soon. That's
right. Well, you take care. And this is the Radio Takeover with Dee Rivers. We'll see you out there somewhere. Bye.